Conclusione in rete, Andrea Pirlo, un gol pazzesco! Del Piero, Alex, Del Piero! Sulla compagna di Pogacar, Pogba, rete, un gol incredibile! Pogba fa esplodere lo Juventus Stadium!
Alrighty, welcome to episode 281 of the Turin Giants podcast. You are blessed today, listeners, to have the ballest edition of the Turin Giants podcast because myself, Zach, am joined with Frederic. How are you, man?
Hey man, thanks for the invite once again. I'm good and bald, as you can see.
Yeah, and if you the intention is to do the video of this. So if you're on YouTube or on Spotify, you should be able to see our beautiful mugs. Well, it is Sunday today, and we have to apologize. We have not been able to come to you earlier for our kind of post-Como thoughts. We've just been really busy, and so we're going to take a little bit of a different angle on our post-game coverage today because I think a lot of the analysis of the game has already happened. So we're going to take a little bit of a different angle when we jump into it. Before we do that, though, we do have some housekeeping as well as some lighter topics. So first and foremost, and importantly, please follow us on at Instagram. We're very active at Turin Giants on Instagram. You can visit us at turngiants.com for some cool swag and information there. And if you are frequent visitors to the Juventus subreddit, you might find Frederic and myself commenting every which way on everybody's posts. So you can feel free to engage with us there. Starting with a little bit of a lighter topic, or maybe an easier topic than sort of our feelings on the game, I want to start with some birthdays. Juventus has a lot of birthdays in February. And so I just pulled out a list of about 10, Frederic, and I'm going to ask you, and I didn't show you this list, so I'm putting you on the spot, but I'm going to ask you to give me maybe a couple words, max a sentence about each one of these players. Okay?
I'm going to try.
Are you ready?
I am.
All right. The first one, birthday on the 18th, is Roberto Baggio.
Legend.
16th, 2 days prior, is Federico Bernardeschi.
Legend, but in a negative way.
Later in the month, you got Cambiaso.
I don't think he'll have his next birthday after that one with us.
Dino Zoff.
Absolute one of the best goalkeepers all time.
Timmy Weah.
One of the few Americans we have at Juve or had at Juve, and a surprise, an underdog.
Cristiano Ronaldo. His was just a couple days ago.
It's Cristiano. There's nothing more to say, I think.
Well, we have somebody born on the same day as Cristiano, just 1 year before, Carlos Tevez.
Animal, absolute beast of a player.
We got a couple more, so thank you for bearing with me. We got Fernando Llorente.
The Lion. He was. How shall I put this? I have mixed feelings about him because when he came on with us, I was skeptical, but he proved us all wrong. But I was a bit emotional, and I recently saw a clip of him where he was commentating a Juventus match, and he was singing along with the fans. So to me, as it would seem, he's still a Juventino at heart, and that pleases me a lot.
Arkadiusz Milik.
Is he still alive? Will he live to see his birthday? We don't know. I mean,
his on the 28th. Yep.
Okay, I'll congratulations. Please leave or get better or just do something. I mean,
all right. The last one before I take over is Coop Miners.
Yeah. I love him to death. I've met him personally, but I think he needs to be benched for a while, to be honest. I hope we can get the best out of him, but he's underperforming this season. So I hope that if we talk about him within a year for his next birthday, we get to be a lot more positive about his influence at Juve.
Thank you for doing that. I know I put you on the spot. So
No,
then
no,
the last February birthday I want to mention is well, at least currently, and it seems to be no longer a Juventus player, but Nicky Beans, Nicola Fagioli. His birthday's in just 3 days' time, and we saw him since the last episode join Fiorentina on loan. And I think my feeling of the community, folks I talk to, Instagram, Reddit, a lot of people are not particularly pleased with this, not only because we're selling one of our youth prospects, but also to whom we're selling him to. Frederic, what's sort of your take on the Fagioli deal?
It's something that I have little to no knowledge about because I failed to see what actually happened behind closed doors. And I think this is the point that either amplifies the tension or it diminishes the tension, if you know what I mean. Because I'm not sure that Nicola left on the right terms. I don't think he has had a proper chance to prove himself. He played some poorly games, let's be honest here. But on the other hand, if you see that Koopman is a player that we mentioned a couple of minutes ago, gets a chance every game to get back into his rhythm or whatever. It's a shame it didn't happen with Nicola. I don't know what happened, but I hate to see him go. I think he was a Juventino at heart. I think he had a lot of potential, a diamond in the rough, so to speak. And it's not like his transfer fee is going to make that big of a difference on the balance sheet. What I do
What was
know
it? What
is
was it? What was it? About 20?
it's like 15 with add-ons or something. It's almost identical to the formula that we bought Kelly with in terms of yeah, money wise. And it was a strange feeling that came over me when I saw that because it was like Fagioli left or Kelly arrived and Fagioli left the day after, like deadline day. And it was almost identical in terms of numbers, which had me thinking and going into rabbit holes of conspiracies and whatever. But it was a bit of a yeah, an unfortunate timing as well. I think we should have kept him on till the end of the season, to be honest. It could
I,
prove to come in handy, and I hate to see him go.
Yeah, before the season, I picked him as the player I anticipated to be the most improved. After his lengthy ban last season, I think I expected him to come in the season with a lot to prove, to repay the faith in the team, extending his contract an extra year, considering he was set out a year, for himself, for the fans, for everybody. And early on in the season, we kind of saw it. I think it was the Verona game, the second game of the season. Starting midfielder was fantastic. He played in the Genoa game right before the Leipzig game, where he was fantastic in all three of those games that we won, really well. Okay, these weren't close games. This wasn't Como, the Como game we just saw. These were dynamic, impressive victories. And after that Leipzig game, which was just such a statement, come from behind 10-man victory, we barely saw him. And it was just these stretches late in the game. And I think you'd agree with me, Frederic, that it's really hard for a player to find form when he's getting, 5 to 10 minutes every fourth match. And when I'm looking at a Como game where we played poorly and we only have 2 midfielders on the bench to replace 3 midfielders that I felt were underperforming, a part of me was thinking, having Fagioli on that bench might have given us some options, or maybe even the Como game would have been a great opportunity for him to start over a guy like Koopmeiners, who is not in a run of good form right now. And so it just, you get from a business standpoint, these homegrown players, it's all pure plus Venza, right? All those the types of things. But I can still see him doing a job on this team, and he proved it in some of his play early in the season to me. So it's just really hard for me to see a young guy like that who seems, like you said, to be a Juventino leave. I think maybe we're falling victim to either the business side of football, or in defense of Fagioli, he wants to play. He might be knocking on doors saying, if you're not going to play me, why am I here? And that's something that I appreciate, right? I don't want to keep a player against his wishes. Everyone wants to play, and if it's going to be elsewhere, then as much as it hurts me to say it, then I would be in favor of him leaving for the best thing for his life and his career.
There are always two sides to every story, or at
Yeah.
least two sides. And from what I heard, I mean, there was a game, I think just after the Christmas break, if you can call it a Christmas break, where he was, I can't remember the game, but I think he was sub like in the last 3 minutes or something, at home, and he didn't take it very well. He was mad, to be honest, and he went to the management and he said, I want to play," and the management didn't want to sell him. They had a conversation with Thiago Motta, as the source tells me, but Thiago Motta said, "Look, he's not gonna play consistently under me in no way, shape, or form. So, decision is up to you. Either you sell him and you get paid, or you just leave him on the bench for emergency's sake." So, I think at the end of the story, it's a better deal for him because he gets to play now. He gets the chances to grow and to develop. But I have an eerie feeling in the back of my mind that this is going to be a transfer that we're going to regret as Juventus as a whole.
Yeah, I definitely see a good player there, and it's going to be up to him at a Fiorentina side that's currently ahead of us on the table, to see if he can demonstrate that potential as well. Alrighty, so we've touched on a couple of topics. I think it's time to get into the game, and we're not going to break down the game. We all know what happened. Juventus played poorly. Di Gregorio and Colomwani had some great moments. The first goal from Colomwani, perfect. Di Gregorio with some key saves. We escape, which is strange to say. Como with a 2-1 victory at the death from Colomwani's penalty. Instead of breaking down the game, which over the last 2 days everyone's done, I want to kind of talk about whether we should be happy with the result, Frederic, because it seems to me that despite all of the analysis that's been done, people are split on what the reaction to the game should be. Because we did win, but it was awful, wasn't it?
It was well, at a point I was afraid that my eyes were gonna bleed literally. It was that bad. I mean, let's not kid ourselves. It was a shambolic performance yet again. And I think that this is the reason why the fans are a bit divided. Because I mean, in hindsight, I mean, we talked about this through our WhatsApp channel and whatnot. And in hindsight, we're 2 days later now. So I'm a bit calmer than I was that evening. But it's the whole process of viewing those 90 minutes is such a big disappointment as a whole, because you'd expect, I mean, if we look back, and I don't mean to compare teams or coaches, but we haven't seen the best of football in the last 4 years. And, starting afresh with a whole new management team, with a new coach, with a lot of new players, you're just hoping for that moment when they finally gel a bit. And it's in moments like these when you play away during the weekend fixtures that you have, and you have attainable, let's say an attainable side like Como,
Mm-hmm.
and then you get this result. I mean, I'm glad we won. I mean, I'll take every point I can get at this point, because, like I said numerous times, it's vital that we get to the Champions League spot. But having to suffer and being outplayed by the likes of Lecce, Como, Venezia. I mean, after 7 months, I think the community or the fans are starting to wonder, hey, where's my team? I mean, we lack a sense of I don't know, cohesion. Is that what you can call it? And In hindsight, I'm glad with the 3 points, as were you, as is every Juve fan. But the way that the 3 points came about, for me, it's highly concerning because for me, it's still a bit of a fluke. And I mean, it's maybe not the proper term, but it's a game we could have lost.
Yeah.
And it's not a game that we excelled in, like with grinta or mentality or technical or physical abundance. We
Hmm.
suffered and we got away with a win like thieves in the night. And yeah, I mean, you expect to see more after 7 months.
I think part of the I think part of the frustration, and we've mentioned it on the podcast, is you have a statement win against Leipzig, and you say maybe this is the catalyst, right? You have a statement win against, albeit a struggling Man City, but Man City nonetheless, and you think maybe this is a statement win. You just rewinding to last month, you dominate and beat Milan, and then you follow it up with a benign performance at Atalanta, getting blown out second half against Napoli, and then two absolute garbage games in the Champions League. You dominate. What was it, Empoli? And you're like, hey, we have a very winnable game at Como. Let's turn that into a good run of form. Now we won, so double, back to back wins for the first time in months. But the manner with we did it was concerning. And I think on one hand, the people who are kind of upset about it are looking at, like you said, is when are we going to start to see this team gel where we feel confidence that they're going to go into this game and they're going to seize it and dominate. And I don't think they've shown the ability to do that over a collection of games. And so I totally understand. In fact, if I were to answer my own question, I would be more so on the side of disappointed, than happy. Right? We'll take the win. You need the win. We tied these types of games the first half of the season, right? That's a notable difference. Yes, we suffered, but we won. And so that is a positive. But the manner with which we played was just so baffling to me against an opposition that does play well at home, but I don't care where we're playing Como. If it's on the moon, we should be able to dominate them 99 times out of 100, if not 100 out of 100, right? That's just the nature of who Juventus is and who they should be. And I was disappointed with the manner what they played coming out, coming out of a poor January, still very much in the fight for top fourth. We said January is going to be defining. Well, everyone stunk in January. So that made then February defining. And I was really hoping that we would start executing on that and we come away with the win. Awesome. But if we play like them, we're going to talk a little bit about the games to come, but if we play like that against BSV in the midweek or Inter on the weekend, I think we both agree that we're going to be in for long days against those two teams.
Yeah, and my biggest issue or the biggest gripe that I have is I don't feel as if the team or the coach realizes that we're just insufficient at the moment. I don't feel that sense of urgency where a coach comes out and don't get me wrong, I know that if a coach stands in front of the media, he has to read out like a bulletin board or whatever. But I don't get that feeling of urgency that he has and that he wants to change things up. Because if you look at it from an objective or a more objective point of view, you could state that Koopmeiners has been awful. I say throughout the whole season, but January was hellish for him. And he still gets the benefit of the doubt by starting. While you have Thuram on the other hand, who's been our best midfielder, I think, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And you decide to bench him in a game where physicality is everything. And to me, that speaks volumes of Thiago Motta at this point. I have a feeling that, and I don't want to be overly critical because been there, done that, but I have a feeling that, he mistakes Juventus for Bologna. I mean, Juventus, the team, the club, we need to see progression. We've been sort of paddling in the water for over 3 years now. There's a reason why we spend all this money. There's a reason why we changed everything we could. And that's to see a side that can dominate, a side that can suffer, which is a very good, um, a very good thing to have as a team, that you're able to suffer. But you need to dominate as well. You need to win those games. You need to build up confidence. You need to build up consistency. You need to build up that team spirit. And to me, where it starts are the team dynamics. I don't know if you saw the vid of Vlahovic criticizing Gatti.
Mhm.
And those are normal team dynamics. I'm the first to tell you that, because I've spent my fair amount of time on the bench criticizing my fellow teammates as well. That's something that happens all the time. But for it to happen so blatantly, within this period of time where we are struggling, speaks volumes of the lack of the sense of we as a team. And I find it really concerning, to be honest.
We might be micro-analyzing that scenario, but could that not also be representative of a team that just wants to win, right? It's just, and I kind of got that, that was the kind of impression I took, is they just want to win. And when you see, Gatti, I think we all love his fight, but he's also sometimes kind of erratic. He makes mistakes. He does some funny things. I think we're no different than Vlahovic in that sense. When we see him do something, sometimes we're like, "Come on, man!" Right? It's because we all want to win. And I think that's how I interpreted it. This team
True,
understands, and they've
true.
felt the pressure of the draws and where they are in the table. They just want to win.
But I think that's the thing that concerns me the most, because normally speaking, I mean, if you have that feeling as a team, it's up to the coach to turn that hunger and that passion or that will to win into a performance that leads you there.
Mhm.
And I think what we saw of Vlahovic was basically a sense of, how shall I put it? A sense of, maybe, I don't know, self-consciousness, or the lack of belief. Like, if you have a team that believes in each other, and that thinks that, okay, we're gonna overcome this, you say those things in the dressing room. You go to your
Mhm.
teammate and you say, "Yo, Gatti, you see what you did? I mean, come on, man, let's go." And then you have that, yeah, that's a thing of a squad. I mean, you handle those things differently. And this is just a sense of me getting that Vlahovic is very insecure about the team, about performances, about whether we can win, draw, or lose. It gives me the creeps, to be honest. It really gives me the creeps, because I don't know, it puts me off. I don't know why. It's not the words or the things that he says, but the way he says it, so outspoken, because as a player, that there are like 150 cameras pointed at you. Um, I mean, the dynamic is a bit off at this point, and yeah,
I think you made a really good point. A team that is fully confident in their ability to salvage a game that was just not going their way, you wouldn't be saying those things, because you'll have that, "Hell no, we'll get them" attitude, right? And that is concerning, because I think, look, I've been probably as trust the process as you can possibly be at these episodes. For folks who listen to us regularly, I've always like, look, you got to build it. It's a new team, it's new players, and so on and so forth. But we're in February. At this point, there needs to be some sort of evidence of the process on the pitch, because we're over 50% of the way through the season. We're deep into into the Champions League, the elimination rounds. We're going to be doing the quarterfinals this month in the Copa. There has to be that evidence, and I think the players. I think I agree with you that the players are feeling a little nervous about our team, because let's be honest, the proof on the pitch is that we cannot hold leads. How many points from winning positions? What was it? Almost 20 at this point. All of the
20, yeah,
draws,
20.
all the draws are 2 points dropped at this point. That's approaching 30 points dropped from draws. So I get it. And it, at this point, that, and the same thing with Coop, is you got to start proving it. Not, less to us. Like, I want to be proven right. We all want to be proven right. But I think they have to prove it to themselves. And I think you might have hit the nail on the head that with Vlahovic, that might be just a little window in the fact that they don't have that faith in themselves, that they don't have that full belief that a team who might overperform and go deep into the Champions League, or a team that might have the swagger to seize fourth, even though there are two teams now ahead of us, both Lazio and Fiorentina, in the sort of the journey for that spot. And so it's something that we're going to have to watch looking forward. Are there any more thoughts about, or anything you wanted to, maybe individual performances, or anything you wanted to mention about the Como game?
I think Di Gregorio played a very good game, fortunately for us. My thoughts when I see the lineup and I see how they play, and this is not just solely related to Como, but like, you have Mwani now, who started off as a firecracker. I mean, this guy is awesome, like a true number 9. Why not try a 4-4-2 with Mwani and Vlahovic together? That's the thing that boggles me, because let's be honest, level-wise and performance-wise, it can't get any much worse. And this is a thing that bothers me, because you see each game is eventually a photocopy of the last one. And to me, as a coach, I think you need to look in the mirror at times and say, okay, my game plan or my vision is just not working. And the numbers prove me right. I mean, we're lacking in terms of points and performances. Try something, do something. Why do we always need to see players play out of position? Why do we always need to see the same 4-3-2-1 formation? Try something different. Set up 2 strikers. Maybe we can be more dangerous, or maybe we can set up, our defense a bit higher, so we don't get those stupid goals. And maybe that helps us, get in confidence, because I think if we were to get 2 clean sheets now, defense would start being a lot more confident and less shaky, because these things get in players' heads. You could tell from the moment that we scored that you see defenders thinking, oh, great, they're going to score now because we scored, because this happened all the time. I mean, remedy that as a coach. And this is what I mean with progression, because it's not just the players, but it's you as a coach, first and foremost, in my opinion, who has to take these things into consideration and try to, put that idea out on the pitch. And if you fail, you fail, but at least you tried. I mean, but just, backpedaling now is not going to help us in any way.
I wonder if 4-4-2 would work, because you have, say, Yildiz on one side, maybe Conceição on the other. That effectively would morph into a 4-2-4. And we've seen 4-2-4 a few times when Yildiz has been playing the 10, because he'll be play more advanced than, say, a Coop or a McKennie in that position. And we've just left a lot of space in behind those 4 attackers that have just absolutely. It's really hurt us on the, when we lose the ball in those situations. So I'm not sure if that would, because that would be the first, names that come to mind. I don't know if that would have to be how we do. Maybe you put, Weah and or McKennie on one of the wings or both of the wings, or more two-way players to give balance. But it would be something that Vlahovic has said he wants, right? Having a strike partner. I'd be curious to see how that would look and how that would play out if it's something the team tries.
Yeah, and you don't necessarily have to change the formation as a whole and every game, but if you can see that your formation in a certain game isn't working, just try to do that. I mean, train on that. Try to tell the players, look, if we get into trouble, I'm going to switch to this formation. I want you to do this, this, and this in that position.
Yeah, and you could play a 4-3-3, put Vlahovic up top, say Colomwani out on the left. You put, say, McKennie in the left side Mezzala. You have Colomwani pinch in a little bit more central. McKennie drift into that outside space. So yeah, you could be creative with it. not necessarily 4-4-2, but you could be more creative in terms of giving that strike partnership, or put Colomani on the right, Leotas and less, have them pinch in almost like two behind.
Yeah.
And then you could, so there are different, like you have McKennie and Toronto. Sorry, my mind's just creatively trying to put it together in the eighth. So yeah, I think it's doable. And I think that you saw when Colomani and Vlahovic were both on the pitch for that short bit at the end of the Empoli game, they did have some link up interplay towards the end of that. Obviously, the game was more open, Empoli trying to kind of equalize, and Juventus taking advantage of that. But in games coming, that there was some potential and promise there. So we'll keep an eye on that moving forward. I'm gonna give you a couple players, because we saw some new defenders play for us recently. I just want a couple sentences from you about both of our new loanee defenders. First off, we saw Vega start, I think, back-to-back games. How is he done for you?
I wouldn't say that he surprised me, because I knew him a bit. I saw a couple of games of him, and the characteristics that he has were something that we were lacking. So in that respect, he put something on the table for us as a team. Are we expecting the new Franco Baresi or Paolo Maldini? No. Is he ever going to be that player? No. So there were meh games. Not too poor, not bad, but nothing to get all excited about. I mean, I'd rather have Bremer on one leg than Vega and in good health, to be honest. But we can't be picky at this time. So I think he's done fairly well, considering the fact that he just arrived.
What about Kelly? Sort of his brief cameo.
That's more difficult to judge, I think, because if we're being honest, the guy's been here for 2 days. Played 45 minutes, so it would be highly unfair of me to berate him at this point. But taking into consideration what he did in the Premier League, I wouldn't say that his performance against Como was a surprise, to be honest. He was, for me, the worst defender on the pitch at that point. And Gotti sure did his best to overpower him at times, but no, I think I don't understand the signing of Kelly. I really don't. I mean, I've tried to look at it from all sorts of angles. Even again went into like a conspiracy rabbit hole. What if he's the tax for Tonali for the summer or whatever? But none of those things make sense. I failed to see why we signed him, and with that formula, I hope that there's some sort of hidden clause that if we don't play him enough, or we don't qualify, or I don't know what, then we don't have to buy him. But I honestly can't see what he brings to the table. If you look at his medical reports over the last few years, it's a good thing for the J medical team, but not for the Juve team.
Is your concern more so with the mandatory or the buy clause than necessarily bringing him in as a defensive option? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I think if we had him on a dry loan spell, I mean, it could go either way, and we could take advantage of him, and he has a spotlight for 6 months to prove that he's worthy of a spot at Newcastle or for us or whatever in Europe. But now, you're kind of, you have him, you can't get rid of him because you can't sell him. Let's be honest. I mean, he's a player that you can't sell, and I don't know if he brings anything to the table. That's my main concern. I mean, it's not the money issue, because it's not my money. I mean, Giuntoli gets carte blanche, you'll do whatever you like, but I feel like we're pissing money away at this point.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, the hairline of this podcast just got much stronger. Farhad has popped in. Hey,
can you hear me? Hear me well?
Yeah, we can definitely hear you.
Sorry about the camera angle. Just wanted to pop in and say hello to you guys and our listeners.
Checking
Thanks
on your
for
children,
organizing.
huh?
Yeah, man. It's the weekend with busy with the kiddos. Just went to a museum, check out some art before we devour unhealthy snacks for the rest of the night. Show the kids a little bit of culture before we Look at the flyover, Super Bowl, baby. What's up, boys?
So, well, let's get your thoughts on the question on what I just asked Frederic. So we're finishing up the sort of thoughts on Como, and I just wanted his thoughts on how our new loan players perform. Vega, we saw him start 2 straight games, and we saw a cameo appearance from Lloyd Kelly against Como. What are your takes on these two loanees?
I mean, can we talk about Kolomwani breaking all the records? You know, I'm sure
No,
you guys.
no.
I'm sure.
I'm hosting today, Farhad. I'm asking the questions.
You're the boss today.
I'm the boss today.
Pretty good. You know, what do you think about the? Let me come back to you. What do you guys think about the what's the word I'm looking for? The deals that we made. You know, obligation to buy versus non-obligation. Which deal was the smartest that Gentili did, and which deal people don't understand that it's actually a bad deal? Like, let's start with Kolomwani first.
Well,
He's
Frederic just gave us his thoughts on Lloyd Kelly, and that, you know, one that is perplexing, and that's not necessarily a reflection of the player, but more so the money aspect of it. You know, with his injury record, not really performing. You know, giving up to 20 million for a player, that seems to maybe not match the potential from a financial standpoint. Then you have the 2 dry loans, right? You have Kolomwani is a dry loan where we're going to pay a portion of it. Vega, we're also paying, I think in both cases, pretty hefty loan fees for these players with no buy option. I think if Kolomwani keeps playing at a similar level the rest of the season, then it's a brilliant deal, right? We've been starved of a threat from the number 9 position. And seeing what he's done so far, and I don't think anyone expects him to keep scoring at this clip, but you know, seeing what he's done so far, I like just how it's made me feel. Just so like I haven't seen this level of clinicality since Ronaldo on our team, and it's just something that we've desperately needed on this current version of Juventus.
So, what I wanted to ask you both, I know Zach is a little bit of an optimistic fan, which is okay. You know, we have different sorts of expectations for teams. Frederic, he's you guys should see some of the text messages that come from this man. He's on a suicide watch. He's puffing away even on this podcast. So let me ask you, I was talking to my friend Saeed. Shout out to Saeed, the president of Southern California Juventus fan club. I'm predicting a top 3 finish. You know, things are looking okay again. I feel like, especially if we beat Inter at home, it's a big deal. So I'm being optimistic as well. I want to hear from Frederic. Top 3 finish, is that just a crazy prediction, or we can put together a run at the end of the season? And then I want to hear Zach too.
At this point, I stand by my prediction, which I made. I think it was in December with you guys. Can't remember. But I can't see us reaching 4th even.
Okay. Zach, do you think Juve can put a run together, especially with a little bit of reinforcements that we received?
Atalanta is 3rd. They're 7 points ahead of us. I do not see us catching them. I don't think, even with the number of competitions we're in, with the team that we have, unless
Let me charge my phone, but I'm listening. I mean, charge my computer. I apologize.
Unless we sort of materialize a period of good form that Frederic and I were sort of asking for, begging for earlier in this episode, I don't see us making up 7 points out of an Atalanta team that's still playing good ball, despite a couple maybe lackluster performances lately. And I don't really want to be talking about 3rd anyways, when we have Lazio 2 points ahead of us, and if Fiorentina managed to beat Inter for the 2nd time in 2 games on, I think, tomorrow, then they'll be 2 points ahead of us. I don't want to talk Atalanta when we have to surpass Lazio and Fiorentina, both of whom are playing, at least relative to us, in equal, if not slightly better ball.
Yeah, and I also feel that, I'm sorry to interrupt.
Go
I
ahead. No,
also
you go ahead.
feel that when we were talking about this in December, the general consensus was that, well, Lazio and Fiorentina aren't going to maintain. They're going to fall off. Watch after the break. And so I took a moment and looked at some games from Fiorentina and Lazio, which I normally don't do because I just don't do it. I don't know why. And they look like a proper team. They really surprise me in the way that they play, the mentality that they put on the field, and the cohesion. They are a lot of steps above us in terms of team cohesion and dynamics. And you can argue about the fact, the fitness level and the results that will drop. Granted, that could also happen, but like in terms of team cohesion and the way they play, at this point, they're well above us for a reason, let's say. So I don't know. I think the games that we have against them will need to be games that we have to win. And
Huge.
huge. And I don't see us pulling that off. I mean, if we were to play like Fiorentina next week, I wouldn't give us like a healthy chance of winning. So, like Zach and I said earlier, January was the make or break month. We pushed that back to February, but I think we'll say the same thing come March. And in the end, the season's going to be over. So if you keep pushing those gains for momentum back and you fail to pick up a decent result, you'll see the teams above you heading out like Atalanta did, and they had a bit of a dip, and they're still 7 points in front of us. So I don't know. I'm pretty skeptical, but that's my nature. I mean, somebody has to be negative Nancy.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
man.
you can look at it a bunch of different ways. Like, you could say Moise Kean, he's been super clinical. What if he's not going to be able to maintain that goal scoring form? Fiorentina is gonna fall off. Well, on the flip side, Castellanos for Lazio has missed more big chances than Vlahovic. I think he might be the only forward that has. So if he starts actually connecting on some chances, then Lazio is going to run away with us. Like it all comes down to Juventus having to find the best version of themselves and going out there and actually getting results, most notably in games and in big games. Now we've got Inter on the weekend. We have to play Lazio and Fiorentina on the second half of this season. Those games are must-win games, and I don't care if it's ugly. I don't care if it's beautiful. They're must-win games. We're getting into a period, Farhad, where, as I said earlier, the trust the process. Well, it's time to start showing us what that means, what that is. What is that process? What are the results? And this team, against Como was, in my opinion, a big setback from what they showed the second half against Empoli. And the team's going to have to prove it to themselves and prove it to us, because these games are going to come thick and fast. We got both PSV games. We got the Copa game at the end of the month, albeit against a really injured and struggling Empoli, as well as games in the league. So we're going to find out real quick if they've got what it takes.
And if you don't mind me quoting a good friend of mine who was also active on a Juventus forum, I think he hit the nail on the head. He said, the clock is ticking and we're not doing anything to get more, how shall I put it? Because I'm translating from Italian to English in my head. We're not doing anything to achieve a sort of Zen status, in a way that we can build up some confidence, that we can build up some momentum, that we can build up some mechanics within the squad to be confident to face Fiorentina or Lazio in that struggle for fourth. That's the thing that is lacking at this point, and which is, for me and for a lot of people, a bit concerning. And it's like Zach said, the project and what have you, but where is the end result? Where's the payday? What are we working for or towards? Because we fail to see a build-up in which we can reflect and say, okay, it's gonna be all right. We're gonna get that fourth place, and eventually we'll rise above Fiorentina and Lazio, because we have a better coach, we have better players, we have that quality, we have that cohesion, we have that mental strength, because all those things that I just mentioned, at this point we don't have it. So it's gonna be one for the books, that's for sure.
To give you maybe some positivity, Farhad, because I maybe didn't give you as much positivity as you expected. I truly believe in fino alla fine, and it's not just in a game, right? As I was texting both of you during the Como game. It's not fino alla 80 minutes, right? It's the whole. It's fino alla
You were
fine.
happy with that one, weren't you?
Well, I was proven correct, was I not? It's just, it's fino
No,
alla fine.
with the phrase itself, you were pretty proud about that one.
Yeah, I patted myself on the back.
Filo 80 minutes. I like that.
Well, I mean, you guys deserved it, frankly. But the Fina alla fine, I also consider on the season, right? We are still technically in it, very much so. And we have key
Absolutely.
games against these players coming forward. I am not, how many games have we played in Serie A? 24 games. I'm not Fino alla 24 games, right? It's 38 games we play, and that determines it. So until we are mathematically eliminated from top four, I'm going to be looking for ways for us to get it. And I feel like the team has the ability and the capabilities to achieve it. So I'm just asking them.
Yeah.
They've won 2 in a row. It would have been ugly, but I'm asking for them to continue to show us. There's no wiggle room now.
I am team Zach. I'm going to be positive for the rest of the season. I will try to show support, but with a little bit of pessimism, of course, because that's
you say
me.
that Tuesday or wherever we play PSV. I'm going to be getting blown up on our phone here. Farhad's going to be pissed off.
I think I might have to turn off all the devices and go airplane mode because I really want to watch this game, but I'm working, so I get home at 9 p.m. So it'll be a late night for me. Champions League games. I kind of don't want to watch it at work here and there. I want to enjoy but
may I ask you guys one thing? Just your opinion, because it was a little brain fart that I.
Of course, man. We need content. Go ahead.
If we were to finish this season 4th, but the lackluster performances and what have you should continue, and the mismanagement, in my opinion, by Giuntoli continues by putting players out of the squad or putting them up for sale or whatever. So the trend itself remains the same, but by some astronomical alignment of planets, we still get 4th place. Would you guys be willing to sit out another season of this with Malta? Or would you say, okay, we got lucky now, we got 4th place, we may have not deserved this, and it was a bit of a fluke to get that 4th, but would you continue with Malta and the way that the team is performing at this point?
One more year? No, for sure. I mean, if top 4 is, we hate it. We don't like that the top 4 is Juve 2025. That's their goal. It hurts, of course, as a Juve fan, but I feel like giving one more year to Motta, and there's no way the team will get rid of him by now. I mean, if they take spot number 4 and a decent Champions League run. Somebody asked me on Instagram, hey, what do you think our Champions League run is going to look like? I said, I don't know what it's going to look like after this PSV game, but we better advance after this. We better show Europe and our fans that we are better than a first round exit. Like losing to PSV and being kicked out will be a disaster. I feel like if we advance, take spot number 4, make correct moves, and get all of our injured players back. Yes, next year is looking promising. Again, now 2025, 26. If we are in February 9th, we're still discussing a top 4 exit, then next summer is looking rough for Mota. But for now, let's give it a chance. Trust the process.
At the beginning of the season, in the beginning of the season, I said that my opinion of Mozza will come down to next year. And so certainly if we get top 4, I would stick with them. But if it's December 31st, 2025, and we're not convincing at the top 2-3 positions, certainly fighting for a Scudetto, then I'm going to start wondering what the vision is. Because if we went entered this season with one fullback, Cambiaso, with one striker, Vlahovic, who has underperformed, I think, and Milik, who is just chilling in Poland at this point. That's an incomplete squad, right? If you get top 4, you have the money to bring in the extra pieces, presumably. You come in, you get Bremer back, who I think we all agree would really be a player we needed this season. Then you literally have all the pieces. I would not say that we had all the pieces at the beginning of the season to fight for the Scudetto, but definitely top 4. Well, we would have no excuse as far as I'm concerned, having a year under the belt of most of these players. You bring in the couple pieces that we're missing, a striker, a fullback or two, to not be at the top, to be at the top of Serie A. And so if December 31st, on the eve of the winter transfer market, we're looking at a similar performance and or standing as of right now, I would be hard pressed not to say that you got to move on, unless unless we're playing fantastic football and just all of Serie A is just stupidly competitive or something like that. Absent that, I would expect Juventus, going into a second year, middle of the season, to be demonstrating the type of football and the type of dominance that we would hope to see from a Juventus team, and that, to me, that's December 31st.
Are you saying we're going to circle back after December 31st?
I'm happy. I stick by what I said at the beginning of the season. I have no problem facing my words. You December 31st, I'll give you an answer.
Okay. Interesting.
I have something interesting for you guys.
Yes, sir.
As you know, Agnelli lives in the Netherlands right now. And
Is this a scoop? Is this what listeners have been waiting for the whole game?
I wouldn't call it a scoop. There are two things that are important in this story, in my opinion.
Let's go.
So, a friend of mine that lives in Holland has a few contacts here and there, and he recently, he meets Agnelli regularly-ish. And one thing that is important is that Agnelli, who is in Stellantis management, Exor management, last 3 months had a lot of meetings planned outside of Stellantis Exor, which says everything and nothing, because Agnelli is not the type of person that needs to go out hat in the hand asking for money, but having these types of regular meetings, it looks like funding for something. Let's put it at that. And a friend of mine, they met briefly, and asked, hey, he's still Mr. President. What do you feel about Thiago Motta at this point? Don't quote me on that, but it was something like, what are your feelings? And Agnelli said, as informal in Italian, I would have fired him in November already.
Wow.
I mean, I'm going rabbit hole conspiracy type of thing again, third time this episode. But if you were to say that Agnelli should be coming back in this year, I think, or next year, can't remember when his ban is lifted.
They say 1 or 2.
Yeah, it's what, I don't know. It's a very, very, very strange way of, I don't know. It's not set home, but should he come back and Thiago Motta still on the bench, and we still are in this limbo stage, I think the moment that Agnelli enters Continassa, he'll hand the bags over to Motta.
Well,
I don't think, I doubt he would even hire a former Inter quote unquote legend, to be honest with you.
Look, I'm not gonna take too much from that. It's really easy for a guy who is in no position of any authority of anything to say, well, if I was in position, I mean, at that point, it's basically like us, right? It's not like he's controlling anything. Obviously, he's more tapped in than we are, but what he would or should have done is irrelevant. My thought is if we're still in limbo by the time his ban is lifted, then Motta should have already been gone. I guess is my take, right? So, we can talk what he may or may not have said or what or could have, should have, whatever have done. But like us to go back to my December 31st thing, like I feel strongly on that. That is the line for me. And if we're still 1 or 2 years away from Nelly, I don't care what he would do if Mota's still in limbo, because Mota should be gone if if we're still in limbo at December 31st.
True, but the thing is, sorry, Farah, his ban is only viable if he's in a functioning position in a club. So he cannot be president, he cannot be team manager, he can't even be the guy who prints the jerseys or whatever. But if he's the owner,
Kitman.
I mean, if he owns the club and somebody else is president, then the ban is basically lifted already.
Zach
And
mentioned Bremer. I want to switch. Sorry, I just want to switch topics for 2 seconds. Zach mentioned Bremer, and we always mention his defensive abilities, but we kind of neglect to mention that he also scored goals for us. He was at least on corners and dead ball situations, he was a nuisance to the opposing team. So I feel like we also lost a decent goal scorer. It was like 3-4 header goals a season we lost, as well as a monster in the defense. So, it feels like we mentioned Bremer every other podcast. That's how big of a loss he was to us, right?
You touched on something though, is this team does not seem very confident in the air. We look very shaky defending corners, and we don't particularly seem threatening with our own corners, despite, I would say, decent deliveries more times than not. The defense of, Danilo, Gatti, Bremer, Rabiot in midfield, McKennie coming up from wing back. I mean, those are all very, very threatening headers of the ball. Kalulu is not as good in the air. Obviously we don't have Bremer or Danilo anymore. McKennie, for the most part this season, except for the last, couple weeks, has played sparingly or here and there. Savona, who's a big kid, really hasn't shown that he's very threatening in the air. So I think one thing this team definitely needs to work on, and maybe this is an off-season thing at this stage, but it's really been unfortunate for us to see, and I don't attribute this just to Bremer being gone or Danilo being gone or Rabiot being gone, but this team just all of a sudden has been very toothless in the air in defending and in attacking corner situations. And I think that's a big hole that I'd like to see us work on for next season, because it's been glaring to me.
But we've been always awful with defending corners.
Allegri seems to really put together a good set piece offense and defensive packages. As much as we clown on him maybe for other things, is that seemed to always be fairly well done in my opinion.
Maybe Allegri was good, but I remember the Conte era, and it was awful. If look back, I don't know if that stat is even available. Last 10 years conceding goals for Juve, corners were just an awful problem for us.
Last year, I mean, not going back to Conte, but last year, if I'm not, we were first or second in scoring from set piece scenarios.
No, but I'm talking about conceding goals. Corners were always a problem.
But from our goal differential or defensive and offensive, last year especially, we were stellar, and we were struggling, with Vlahovic getting goals, and we made up the difference in the set piece scenario. And I guess my point is, we're not seeing that this year. And with a new coaching staff, maybe you say, hey, from so-and-so to so-and-so, maybe that what happens. I think what it comes down to is, really taking the time to set that up right, distilling the mindset. I think of headers and stuff like that. A lot of it comes down to courage and mentality, and the work needs to be done on that. And maybe getting Bremer back would help in that regard, but we have the size. We just need the execution. And that's going to maybe, I don't know, the rest of this season or off season or something, but that's the area this team needs to improve.
Definitely. All right, boys. Did we touch on everything?
Look, you came in halfway through the podcast, try to take this shit over.
Don't start. No, I am
starting. You started it. All right, I'm finishing it. Okay, I'm taking this back over. We had an outline, Farhad. So,
All right.
all right.
What's
one
next?
thing.
What's next
What's
on the
next on
agenda?
the list is, and I've been forgetting to do this, and I it's kicking myself every episode. I love to highlight the other Juventus teams, and maybe it's just because the next gen and the women's team are in just a beautiful run of form, both of them, that give us a little bit something different to mention. But I do want to mention that the women's team is still top of Serie A, 7 points clear of Inter. And they just had an absolute monster game over the weekend, earlier today, beating Milan 6-0. So, as I've always said, if you get the opportunity to watch their games, sometimes they're streamed for free online. So just kind of keep your ear to the ground on that. They're playing some really good football on the women's side. The next gen team as well. I still don't think they've lost since the coaching change in November, winning 2-0 this weekend. It might
Good
not
job,
seem
boys.
that impressive that they're up to 12th, but in November they were literally 20th, bottom of their group in Serie G. They're now up to 12th. They are 4 points back in 12th, 4 points back from 7th. So
And
with a lot of games to
Azic,
play.
Azic stole the show. I saw the
Yeah,
game
yeah.
live. It was amazing.
That's a good call out. We had some guys that have been a part of the Juventus roster. Odzic probably with the most notable one, but Angele, who we saw as sort of a cameo appearance early in the season, playing for this next gen team that's just firing on all cylinders. And so I think that's really good for our project to see that those players excel. And we've talked a lot this year about coaching changes. Well, this was a coaching change. As much as we loved Montero, this was a coaching change that needed to happen, and it was wildly successful for this group of players. So, like I said, haven't lost since November, up to 12th in striking distance, easily striking distance from playoff places, certainly closer to playoff places than Juventus are from third, Farhad. So
Yeah, I know,
another
right?
team to look out for with having some really good performances, women's team and next gen. And I think the only thing I would say is, and we kind of teased it a couple times, so I don't know if there's much more that needs to say. The closeout of what we were going to talk about today was a look ahead. What I'll probably do in the interest of time, because we reached an hour, is we talked a little bit about the implications of PSV on our Champions League season. We'll probably have an episode after that game, and we'll use that time to look ahead to the humongous game at home over the weekend against Inter. If that sounds
By
good.
the way, if you're listening, thank you, Zach. If you're listening in the Chicago area, please join us at AJ Hudson's. Juve Inter is always a big meeting. We had so much fun during the last one, where 4-4 was the result. Obviously, cheering on that game. 4 goals, 2 by Yildiz, was super fun. So, even if you don't live around Chicago, find yourself a fan club in your city. It's always fun to connect with local fans. So come and join us. Uncle Gio will be there if you always wanted to meet Uncle Gio. He's the man. So we'll be there drinking brews and what's up, buddy?
Sorry. Any thoughts on the PSV game? Because
I was going to ask you guys.
Yeah.
Give me a prediction. I'm making you guys both give me a prediction. Frederick, at home, PSV. What's the result going to be?
I think we're gonna be tied 1-1.
1-1. Farhad, Mr.
3-2
Optimism.
Juventus.
Oh, 3-2. Okay, I'm going 2-0 Juventus at home in the midweek game. So we'll see.
Okay.
We'll see.
Hey,
we'll see.
who's Mr. Optimistic? At least I let in 2 goals against us. You're sticking with a clean sheet. So we'll see.
Well, we should win, because it's gonna be a very different game in Eindhoven. I think it's gonna be a very difficult game if we don't manage to.
Did you get the tickets yet?
Not yet. I think tomorrow I can have
Beautiful.
some news.
Awesome. Well, that's okay. Now, Farhad, I can kick it back to you, I guess. Is there anything you'd like to say as now I'm closed out my outline?
No, you're good. You're good. I'm just going through footitalia.com as always. There's, check out our friend Rav's website. AIA defends Gatti's handball decision, sees consistency in VAR rulings. Another article is Moji praises Colomwani signing, criticizes Juventus performance. Let's just read into it a little bit. Former Juventus General Director Luciano Moggi has offered his thoughts on the club's recent 2-1 victory over Como, praising the acquisition of Randall Colomuani. Colomuani's future at Juventus, conditions and timelines. Please check out that analytical piece. Another article is Juventus prepare for summer revolution. All eyes on Tonali and Osimhen. Oh, this is interesting. That should be a fun summer coming up. Cherubini, thank you, Agnelli. Your decision made Juventus history. Paratici is the best sporting director. I don't know what he's talking about there. And also, there's obviously much more, but last article I mentioned is Juventus versus PSV. Thiago Motta contemplates midfield shakeup. So Rav is obviously working on the website. Please support him. Looks like there's more writers that are coming in and writing for him. So, like I've mentioned always, if you have passion for Serie A or Juventus, contact our friend Rav, and it's $100,000 a year plus dental. So here we go. Also, last thing I wanted to mention, sadly, when we used to have SoundCloud as our podcast hosting program, it would give us cities that people listen in as opposed to just countries. So that was really fun to shout out individual cities. But let's do a top whatever of countries that listen to the Juventus podcast, or Juventus podcast. I haven't called that in years, but Turin Giants podcast, United States, Canada, Australia. Shout outs to our Australian Juventus fans. Dedicated. I always give them props because the times are just awful. If I had to wake up at 3 a.m. to watch my favorite team, it would not be my favorite team anymore. I'm sorry. Australians are built differently, man. Those times where they watch are just awful. United Kingdom, Sweden, Denmark, Finland, and Italy. Scandinavia giving us some love, and Italian fans. So thank you all. I always make sure a couple of minutes of our podcast is dedicated to our fans and how much we love our audience. So thank you, boys and girls.
Alrighty, and with that, and by the way, we said it earlier, but we love interacting with folks on social media. Hit us up, reply and engage with us on the Turn Giants Instagram. We love it. So
yeah. By the way, I'm to the point where we're so popular on Instagram. I'm already kind of ignoring the DMs because it's getting a little much.
Don't say that. Why'd you say?
I'm not ignoring.
We love the DMs.
I love the DMs, but it takes me a couple of days to reply because
genius.
They stack up. And if you want to support this podcast, TurinGiants.com. I'm done talking. Thank you.
All right.
Go
ahead, Frederick.
Sorry. Also, there's people that have like different opinions or different views or just questions or topics that they want us to touch on. Please feel free to DM. I know Fart says he's not reading them, but he's lying.
No, I'm reading them. I'm reading them. It takes me a couple hours to reply, and I'm happy with it. It's a good problem to have. We're becoming more One last thing I'll say is,
oh my God,
look at this guy.
This guy comes into my podcast.
I'm about to log you out. I'm about to log you out.
It went so well.
How dare you? One last thing I wanted to mention is, God damn it, I forgot. Okay, you happy now? I don't know what I was going to say.
I am happy now. Thank you, everybody, for listening to, I guess,
something exciting too. God damn it.
I'm sure it was, Farhad. Thank you all for listening.
I remembered. I remembered.
My God.
I finally found a cord that's going to connect my nice professional camera, and we'll start making reels that look like real works of art. So I'm really excited about that one. That's it.
You interrupted me twice to talk about a cord.
Yes.
Oh my
HDMI is here.
Jeez. All right. Well, thank you all for listening, putting up with this, whatever this is. We'll talk to you soon after the PSV game, y'all. Take it easy.
I was caught in the middle of a race.
you. Sound of the drums beating my heart. The thunder of guns tore me apart. You've been thunderstruck.
Okay. Not gonna lie, that was kind of smooth.